Welcome to this very special episode. This is the last episode of Safe Home Podcast, as well as the first episode of our new podcast called Unraveling Adoption. We are pivoting to this new name and a new focus on adoption with our new project. For those who don't know me, I'm Beth Syverson. I'm an adoptive mom of a 19-year-old son, Joey, who has been dealing with addiction and mental health issues for several years. I'm walking beside him as he struggles with his recovery, while I work on my own personal growth and healing. Now, our Safe Home has focused on 4 pillars up until now: addiction, mental health, adoption, and diversity. And moving forward, our new podcast, Unraveling Adoption, will be focusing primarily on adoption. But of course, addiction, mental health, and diversity will also be in the mix, because adoption. Now, since this episode is a transition from one entity to another, I wanted to take the chance to do a few things. Number 1, I want to thank those who have helped make Safe Home Podcast happen. 2, I want to explain why I'm making this pivot. 3, I want to unravel the new title, Unraveling Adoption. 4, I want to let everyone know our plans for the future. And 5, I want to give you ways you can help. So first, I want to give a big thank you to anyone who's helped make Safe Home Podcast happen. When we started this back in August of 2021, Safe Home Podcast was Joey's idea, and we wanted to help other families who were struggling with a teen or young adult who had addiction or mental health issues. And it was very motivating for both of us to help us get through a really, really tough time in our lives. So when we started Safe Home, we had a launch team of 147 people who helped us get the first episode out and get everyone aware of what we had going on. So thank you to all 147 of you, many friends and family members and supporters who've been with us this whole time. Thank you so much. We also have 18 Patreon members. These are people who support us with financial contributions every month through Patreon, and it has been extremely helpful to us to defray the costs of making this podcast and creating our website and our email server and all of that stuff. So thank you very much, all of you Patreon supporters. I'm just going to list you all really quick here. Mara, Nina, Camille, Susan, Steve, Barbara, Angela, Darcy, Autumn, Lona, Claudia, Mar, Rachel, Wendy, Kim, Stacy, and Catherine. Thank you all so much. We really appreciate your ongoing monthly support. It really helps us out to be able to continue our commercial-free podcasts. Next, Beth and Lori Hansen were generous donors, and we made them sponsors of several of our episodes. So thank you, Beth and Lori. They were our guests on episode 30 with their brother/son, Eric. And they are very dear friends of ours. And big thank you to Beth and Lori. Thank you so much. Now, a few stats for you. We have made 73 episodes of Safe Home Podcast in the last year and a half. We've had 60 guests appear on those 73 episodes. And Joey was with us on 13 of them. By the way, Joey started with me on the pod. And then shortly after he started, he relapsed. And as it was evident that he was going to relapse and move back to his dad's, I said, "Hey, Joe, what do you want to do with the pod? Do you want me to hold it for you? Wait till you come back? Do you want me to keep going with guests or what?" And he said, "No, Mom, I want you to keep going. Bring in guests if you need. And I want you to talk about relapse." So we've had 3 episodes about relapse. The first one was episode 6 with just me and Jan, the night that he relapsed and went away to his dad's house. Then we had another one a couple weeks later, episode 12, with Jan and me after we had kind of absorbed the information about his relapse. And then one of the episodes I'm most proud of is episode 13, where Joey talks to me in that episode from the place of relapse. So he was actively using, still cogent though. He was not like high when he was speaking to me, but he was in active use. And he talks about what it's like to be in relapse and what kind of support he needs when he's feeling like that. So the top episode of all 73 episodes so far has been Spencer LaJoy's episode number 37. Spencer is an amazing musician, and that episode was about their identity as a non-binary person. And I'm really thrilled that that episode is our top one. It shows how many fans that Spencer has for them to come listen to their story. So I love that. And I love that that message is getting out there to everybody that non-binary people exist, and kind of Spencer explains it so well and helps it be relatable to everybody. The number 2 episode is with Brenda Bash Cooper. Again, she has lots of friends and family members, evidently, because it's way more people than normally listen to our episodes. And hers is number 21. Brenda is an adoptee, and she shares her adoption story and her reunion story. Really, really good episode. And the 3rd episode of all time is one with Joey and me, episode number 2, where we talk about cough medicine, or DXM. And this is the over-the-counter medicine that kids especially use in excess to get themselves high and or dissociated and or comatose and or dead if they're not careful. Joey almost died twice with overdosing on cough medicine. So it was really important. It was episode 2, right after our intro episode. We wanted to help everybody understand the dangers of cough medicine and other over-the-counter drugs. And in that episode, we encouraged parents to lock up all of your meds, your prescription meds and your over-the-counter meds. Just lock them up if you have preteens or teens in your house or visiting your house, because it's very easy for kids to grab them and overdose on them. This is quercetin, Robitussin, anything with DM in the title. Those are the kinds of things that are really, really dangerous, and all of it is dangerous. So just lock them up. Lock them up. We have had 8,524 plays off all 74 episodes. That is pretty dang cool. We had 2,043 minutes of content. And according to Spotify, that's more than 97% of other creators in the health and fitness category. So I guess that means we're in the top 3% of content. So that's pretty cool. In the amount of content, I should say. Our podcast was heard in 13 countries on Spotify. The top 5 were US, Canada, UK, Ireland, and Australia. So, hey, shout out to all of you in any of those countries. It's pretty cool how podcasts can just go everywhere. I love that. Our podcast was in the top 20% of the most shared podcasts globally. So that's pretty cool. People shared by direct link, by text, by Facebook, and by Instagram. Spotify gives me all these stats at the end of the year. One of the greatest things about creating this podcast is all the connections I've been able to make with our guests. Now, some of our guests have been friends and people I've known for a long time, like Beth and Lori and Brenda. And some are new to me friends, like Spencer and so many other friends that are new to me. And some I am so happy have connected with each other. It turns out I'm pretty good at networking people. I had no idea because I was super shy when I was younger, but nowadays I'm not shy anymore. And I love connecting people, finding people who can use the expertise of other people and connecting them across the way. So that has been extremely rewarding. Thank you so much to all the people who have been a guest on the show. And of course, thank you to all of you who have listened to any of our episodes and or shared them with others. That is so great. Podcasting is kind of a strange art. We create it, we edit it lovingly, and we send it out into the world, and we very rarely hear back from anyone about it. It just goes out. And I know when I listen to podcasts, which I do many times a day, I never go back to the podcast owner and tell them how much their podcast meant to me. It just goes in my ears, and then I'm usually doing something while I'm listening to podcasts, and then the podcast is over and it's done, and I never go back. So I understand no one needs to go back and tell me anything about the podcast, but I am so glad that you all are listening, and that I'm hoping, I assume, that the podcast has meant something to you all and you've learned some things through it. And I'm very, very, very grateful for all of you. Now, why am I making this pivot? If Safe Home is so awesome, why are we making the pivot? Well, I love making this podcast. It takes a lot of time, and I need more listeners and more avenues to earn more income so I can make it something I can do for a very, very long time. So in order to get more listeners, I wanted to pivot to something more specific. Safe Home, although we are very passionate about the 4 pillars, addiction, mental health, adoption, and diversity, it's too spread out. And some people might be interested in addiction, but not adoption, or mental health, but not diversity. And so I think that by pivoting to this more select narrow audience, it actually will make our listeners more engaged and we will find people better because the new title, Unraveling Adoption, has the word adoption in it. And I am very passionate about helping other adoptive families, helping other adoptive parents like me. So I want people to find us, and I love talking about adoption, sharing adoptee stories, and talking about all the things that I've learned, and I hope that other adoptive parents can learn as well. So I love bringing in experts and hearing other adoptee voices and birth parent voices and just helping everybody understand adoption better. So that's why I'm going that direction. I'm hoping that this will help the podcast to grow and to make this more sustainable over the long run. Now, what does Unraveling Adoption mean? How did we come up with that title? Well, it has several layers of meaning. So the first layer, the most obvious, is unraveling, like taking apart. What does adoption mean? Unraveling all the layers, the good and the bad. This made my family fabulous, and this took away my family over here. So, and everything in between, all the ethical issues around adoption, all the losses and the grieving and the complexities of reunion and all of it. So unraveling. The second way that I see the title is as in my adoption is unraveling. Perhaps as an adoptive parent, the child is kind of falling apart. Maybe as an adoptee, your family is falling apart or your reunion is falling apart. It is more common than you might think with adoption. So kind of this feeling of, oh my gosh, everything is falling apartness. That's the second layer. Now, the third layer of unraveling adoption is my desire to literally unravel the adoption industry, especially the very unethical parts of the industry. Some of the intercountry adoptions are extremely unethical, grabbing children from very poor countries, basically paying for children. And it does look quite a lot like child trafficking sometimes. And in the US, there's a lot of coercion that happens with young or poor mothers to relinquish. So I want to be a part of unraveling those unethical practices in adoption. Now, I know that adoption will probably always be necessary in some cases. And when that happens, I would love to promote family preservation whenever possible. So if a mother is unable to care for her child, to do our very, very best to find another relative that could take the child and keep the child in the same family lineage, keep them in the same geographic area with the same language, the same foods, the same customs, and that kind of thing. I'm a family preservationist is what I would call myself. So that's what unraveling adoption means to me. And maybe it means something different to you. I'd love to hear. Now, the fourth thing I wanted to talk to you about, what are our plans for the future? I plan to make weekly episodes of Unraveling Adoption, just like I've been doing with Safe Home. We will start next week with Leslie McKinnon, who's an amazing adoption reformer, and she's been a therapist in this adoption field for 25 years. And she herself is a birth parent and has experienced estrangement and addiction and so many of the things that adoptees and adoptive families go through. So she is going to be an amazing guest. She's going to be our first guest on the pod on episode 2 of Unraveling Adoption. So stay tuned for that. And we will have lots of other guests coming up. And if any of you would like to be a guest, if you're an adoptee, adoptive parent, birth parent, or an adoption professional like a therapist, or if you provide some sort of specialized treatment for trauma, for instance, that would really help out adoptees, I would love to hear from you. So contact me at beth@unravelingadoption.com. That's how you can get a hold of me, beth@unravelingadoption.com. And in addition to the episodes, I will be continuing the APtitude support group for adoptive parents facing adoptions challenges. So we've got a group going already. It has about 17 or 18 people in it right now. And we are looking for more adoptive parents who would like to get on board. Now, our group is not like sunshine and roses. It's digging deeply into adoption trauma and what we as parents can do to help our adopted kids get on their healing path. So if you or anyone you know would be open to that kind of support, this is a group for you. It's called APtitude. You can find out more by emailing me at beth@unravelingadoption.com. And I will also put the membership link in the show notes below for the APtitude group. Let's see, what else? I plan to do film screenings and special events and webinars and speaking engagements that I will share with you all. If you are not already on the mailing list, please click the link below and join our mailing list so you won't miss a thing about future events. The one we have coming up really quickly is on Saturday, January 14th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. For an hour, we're going to have a little forum called Ask Us Anything About Suicidality. This will be with me, Joey, and Frank King, who is a worldwide expert. He travels around the world speaking about suicide prevention. So the three of us are going to talk from our own personal experience about suicidality. Joey has attempted several times, as has Frank. I have never attempted suicide, but I'm coming at the angle of being a parent of someone who is chronically suicidal and also as someone who is passively suicidal often. So please bring your questions or your thoughts about suicide, and we will record this as well. So if you can't make it, make sure and register so you will get the recording. I'll put the link to that as well in the notes below. So keep an eye out for your emails or social media for other plans for other future events. Now, number 5, last item on our list is ways you can help. First, the way you can help is by spreading the word about this new podcast, Unraveling Adoption. I'm sort of feeling like I have to start all over again, but I hope that with so many of you already on board with Safe Home, you can make it a smooth transition and just switch over, subscribe to Unraveling Adoption on your podcast app or on YouTube and share it with any of the friends that you have that might be touched by adoption or who might want to learn more about adoption. Perhaps they're a teacher or a minister or have a friend who's an adoptee, that kind of thing. I think everyone needs to understand adoption better, not just people in adoptive families or people who are touched directly by adoption. So that's the primary way. And I bet some of you might be interested in supporting us financially so we can maintain our commercial-free podcasts. If you'd like to join the other 18 Patreon supporters we have so far, we would love to have you. Our program is completely audience funded. You'll notice we do not have commercials. I do not want to ever have commercials if I can possibly help it. And I prefer it if people support the artists that they love. I support several other podcasts and musicians. Patreon, the app, makes it very simple to do so. Here's the URL to go to if you want to support Unraveling Adoption. Patreon.com/Unraveling Adoption. And Patreon is spelled Patreon. I will, of course, put that link below for you as well. So Patreon makes it very easy. You can contribute $5, $10, $25, or $50 a month, and you can cut it off or make it go up or down anytime. Patreon is super easy like that. It's nothing like a gym membership or something what's hard to get out of. Patreon makes it really, really easy. And another way to help is to think of ways that you could connect me with people who need speakers. So I would be more than happy to speak at your church or your parent group or your school or your conference or your professional group of therapists or whoever would like to know more about adoption or about parenting an addicted and or adopted child, things like that. I speak about adoption, addiction, mental health, parenting, any of those kinds of things. So I've done quite a bit of speaking already, and I would love to do more. And by the way, in case anyone has never heard me say this or is concerned, Joey, our son, is completely on board with all of this. I ask him at least every couple of weeks, are you still on board? And he is absolutely still on board. He gets great pleasure in knowing that our work has helped other families. It gives him a reason to keep going sometimes, because sometimes he doesn't even care about himself at all. But if what we're doing is helping other people, that really motivates him to continue striving to recover. So please know that Joey is on board. He is actually currently in rehab. This is brand new development this past week, and he is doing great. And he hopefully will be back with us on the pod and in a more active role very soon. So just in case anyone was wondering. I am always open to your suggestions, or if any of you are interested in being a guest, or if you have any contacts with whom I could connect and help get the word out a bit more. I would do all of this work for free. I love doing it, but I cannot do it for free. I don't do this for the money, but I need it to pay something so I can continue doing it. I hope that makes sense. So if you can help in any of these ways, that will help me to continue doing this work. If it means something to you, if this work has helped you or someone you love, please consider ways that you can help us spread the word and get Unraveling Adoption on track. So thank you very much for being here in this very transitional time period. We are excited for this new year, and I cannot wait to see what kind of impact Unraveling Adoption will have in the world. I really hope it helps a lot of families. It helps people think about adoption in a more honest and critical mode. And I really hope that it helps you and your family. Thanks again. I really, really appreciate it. My family sends all of our love and hope to your family, and we hope that you all stay safe.